Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to Led to Gold. Welcome to season 2. Wow. I kind of forgot how to use my microphone. So literally 5 seconds ago, I'm sitting here tinkering with it. And God, this feels weird. It feels like I was just here, but at the same time, it feels like I don't know how to do this anymore. But that's okay. We're going to figure it out together. Hi. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy to be back. I have so much to tell you, so much to share, so much to go over, and so many ideas for where the podcast is headed. I'm just thrilled. I'm so excited. I hope you are too. If you are coming for the first time ever, welcome to Led to Gold. This is the podcast devoted to discussing all things growth and wellness, but in a realistic way. Okay, I need that to be abundantly clear from the very beginning. I am not your local Instagram wellness guru. I'm not a shaman. That is not what we do here. This is a place where we talk about the really shitty things that happen to us in life, the things that are really hard to sift through, the things that take a really long time to get over, to recover from, and what that recovery process is actually like. That is the wellness that I'm interested in discussing. I want to get into the mess. I want to hear about your mess. I want to discuss what the process is like. I mean, I just, over years and years of dealing with my own mental health craziness and not really feeling like I was ever going to get better, and then now like living the life that I live, which is fantastic by younger me's standards. That's the process that I want to talk about, because I am no longer romanticizing the healing journey. That is not how this shit works. And if you don't believe me, this is the podcast for you. So stick around. Hope you do. Hope you like it. Hope you get something out of it. And if you're coming back, thank you so much. Wow, we have another season ahead of us. Before I get into the content of this episode for today, which in all honesty, I made no notes for, I just want to yap about where I've been and the lessons that I've been most recently kind of learning and integrating into my life. Before we get into all that, I just want to give out the spiel. If you don't already know, that Led to Gold is not just a podcast, it is also a blog. I have been quiet on the blog this past year, as I have been here. So there's not a lot of new stuff going on the page for my blog stuff. But if you're interested in reading a little bit more, if you like that modality of getting into this kind of work or this kind of conversation, I have, I believe, over 70 posts now over on my blog, and it is ledtogold.blog. You can find the link for that in the show notes. You can subscribe to my newsletter. I only send it once a month, but it is just so cute. I did spend this little downtime kind of revamping what it looks like. I'm so proud of it. I love sending it out every month. I just think it is such a sweet little encapsulation of what's been going on. There's a playlist every single month for you, and it is a cross-platform type of playlist, so you can use it if you are on YouTube Music. You can use it if you're on Spotify, if you're on Tidal, which I am now. All of the things. So that's there for you to check out. But here's the really big one that I'm really excited about, that is the most new that I'm putting out, and that is my art, which I was completely off air, not doing the podcast when I started off my art journey. That's probably a conversation for another podcast, but I paint, I have prints, I have originals, and those are also on my website, ledtogold.blog. There's a shop link. I'll put that in the show notes as well. But if you're interested, I'm proud of that too. And I think it's pretty cute. So if you like cutesy little animals and like whimsical little scenes, you might like my art. I think it's pretty affordable. Go check it out if you're interested. That is a great way to support me. And besides that, the other things you can do to support me, if you get through this episode and you love it, if you've listened to other episodes and you liked them, please, if you would, rate the show wherever you're listening to it. That is what most helps other people find this show, which I want. I want to gain some friends and grow this community a little bit. And of course, because it's all about community, if anything lands with you in today's episode or in any previous ones, if you go back and listen, I would love it if you would share that with a friend who could use the same message. That would be a great way to share as well. Okay, that's my spiel. Let's get into 2025, because I was effectively off air for all of that year and a little bit extra. And oh my gosh, like I said at the beginning, I kind of can't believe how much time feels like it has passed, but then more so, I know this is the balance of life, the duality of life. I always say that in my episodes, but yeah, like so much has happened, but at the same time, I've been talking to my friends recently and saying, I feel like I am living my life in weeks. Like everything is happening so quickly that I just don't even know what has happened. So part of just the beginning of this and my plan for kind of getting through some of the lessons that I've taken on in the last year was I literally had to pull up my Google Photos so that I could see like what was I doing in January, because oh my gosh, I like don't even remember, so much has gone on. But here's the short answer to that. January / like early 2025, even late 2024 was kind of a whirlwind, and that even isn't doing it justice. I don't think I need to really stress, if you've listened to previous episodes or if you know me at all, like how crazy the election cycle was and how like stressful that was, and just a lot of feelings around that. And I'm trying to be careful with my words a little bit. I hate that I have to, but I don't want to get overly political, but I think I can suffice to say that the early 2025 / late 2024 was hard. Very hard. I found myself listening to Rage Against the Machine in the gym a lot, and that was kind of my outlet for my rage, quite literally. Just a lot of feelings there, but I noticed later in the year, like around March, that I think a lot of my coping mechanism, it was a lot of things. It's the anger at like the larger world that I don't have a lot of personal control over. Probably a little bit of like winter hibernation-y, like feeling trapped in my own home kind of vibe. That feeling, both of those feelings, whatever it was, like I was just feeling very pent up, but I struggle getting that out of my system. It's something I'm still working on. It's actually will probably come full circle back to this, but that's also something that I'm kind of working through right now at the end of 2025. Anyway, it was hard, and I found myself really not knowing where to put any of that energy other than like lamenting about what was going on in the world and lamenting about the future that I was afraid we were all going to have. And I found myself honestly just feeling really defeated and wallowing. Like I would just sleep when I would get home from work. I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a depression, but I definitely did not feel like my best self. So that was hard. I mean, the whole beginning of the year was just like, dang. But then here's the other piece. And this is just throwing another duality of life aspect into it, is that in October of last year, some of you might remember, I got engaged. So it was literally like feeling like two different worlds were happening. elated and so excited and so in love and so like just like gushing at the prospect of getting to start planning my wedding. But then my fiance, or now husband, we were talking back then about like, well, you know, if we're at war, we're not having a wedding. Like, if the world goes to shit, this needs to be on the back burner. I just don't know what we're going to do. And maybe it sounds silly now, but at the time, like we were talking about this in January, February, I mean, we really had no semblance of what the world was going to be like in November by the time our wedding date came around. It really felt like we kind of couldn't go all in because we were just like, well, what if, you know, and what ifs are bad. I know that, but that was really kind of what we kept saying. And then it got to be early spring and my birthday was coming. And I remember very vividly just before my birthday being like, I am not going to abandon myself. I am not going to let my own well-being fall to the wayside because I don't just so happen to have the ability to save the world. I'm one person, you know? And this is also, if you know me, something that I do deeply struggle with. And I have to remind myself every so often that I can only control what I do. And I am not going to use that as an excuse to like bypass the really difficult community building aspects of life, the really intense and important realities of being an active member of society. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but it was something that I had to remind myself because I was like, I am doing everything that I can, but torturing myself and hiding away and just being angry in silence is not going to do anything. It's not going to be productive. I'm not going to see the results that I want to see if I just spend all of my time sleeping off my anger, right? So around my birthday, and I remember this too because my actual birthday that morning was a solar eclipse. It was a partial one, but doesn't matter. And solar eclipses are crazy. I love them because they just shake things up. They rattle us awake. They will topsy-turvy our life a little bit, at least temporarily. And then it's also a new moon, so it's a fresh start. I remember that was a Saturday, and a couple days before I was like, no, you know what? I'm not going to do this. And I'm especially not going to do this on my birthday. No. The weather was really nice. I was like, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go into town and hang out, and I'm just going to invite the homies, and whoever shows up, and it's going to be fun. And it was something that I had never really done before, but it ended up being such a cute day because the house was a mess. I'll get into that in a moment because that was also a kind of fun little part of the year, but I couldn't have anybody over. The house was a mess. I literally just invited like all different circles of my life. Some of my colleagues came, and they're, you know, quite a bit older than I am for the most part. Their significant others came. Some of my other friends came. It was just such a cute mix of people that have never met each other. And we spent all day together, and people came and went, and people left and then came back again later. And we ended up actually going back to my house, even though it was a disaster. But that was kind of the reminder that I needed of just like, people don't care. Okay. These people who love and care for me just want to see me happy. They want to spend time with community, even of community that they had never had before that day. And nobody cares that your house is a fucking mess. Nobody cares. So it was just really sweet and very needed. And it was the exact kind of solar eclipse shakeup that I think got me out of that pit a little bit. So spring was good. Spring picked up. Things started to feel a little bit lighter. I was in the full throes of wedding planning. And like I mentioned just a minute ago, I was also in the throes of kind of home renovations, but it was cute because they were very DIY. My dad and I built a built-in bookshelf that I had been wanting since we moved into this house. And that was sweet. Like, it was a good excuse to kind of hang out with my dad. And we built this thing together, and it wasn't perfect, but it was dang good enough. And, you know, we were painting the house. We were doing spring cleaning. Then we went away on spring break, and things just lightened up. It was really nice. It was really sweet. I feel like the spring was also a whirlwind, but there were just a lot of like random little activities that were very impromptu that ended up being very sweet and very fun. And it was great. I remember one other really potent day. I was going over to my parents' house to more specifically hang out with my mom, and we were wedding planning. We were kind of just getting the initial like things figured out that we needed to figure out. I don't even know what specifics we had to get into at that time, but it was early May, and I just felt something in the air that day. I don't know if there was anything astrological going on. Doesn't matter. I just was like, something's magical about today. And as I was up at my parents' house, there's it was like an old golf course, but now it's kind of like a nature preserve, and it's a walk along the river. And I remember being like, oh, it's pretty nice out today. I'm going to go swimming in the river after I'm here with my mom. But there was a really intense thunderstorm rolling in. So as I was leaving, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this really quick. It's going to be fun. I'm going to kind of like get in the river while it's like starting to storm. It's going to feel so nice. But as I'm taking the walk, I mean, it's getting closer and closer. And I don't know if you've ever been out, like truly, truly outside when there is a storm coming, but it is intense and scary. And I was like, I don't know the last time that I felt this human, but not human in our everyday understanding. Like, I felt like an animal. Does that make sense? It was intense, and it started downpouring on me. And unfortunately, I actually did get too scared to like swim, because I don't know if this is real. Tell me if this is real or not, but I don't think you're supposed to swim when there's a storm, right? Like, if like lightning strikes, don't you die? I don't know. But anyway, I got too scared. I did not go in the river, but I did get downpoured on. I had to run back to my car. I was soaking wet. But then I'm driving home. I'm listening to Big Thief. My husband was gone for the weekend, so now I'm going home to my little witchy cove, and it's dark, and I like lit a candle at my altar, and I just did my little witchy thing. And by this point, I'm like, wow, okay. I just think I needed to be reminded of what actually being human feels like. Because that's what it is. It's running away from a storm and feeling like a straight up animal. And I don't know how to describe this. I really don't. But I had a feeling when I was in the car driving home of just how, I don't know how to describe this. Everything just felt closer to my body, to my existence. I was experiencing something so raw and so right in front of me. It was impossible to not be present. This is a little side note now that I'm saying this about 2025. The book, The Power of Now. Whoa, I just fully went on a 180 degree, but this will make sense, I promise. The book, The Power of Now, is not a good book. You might disagree with me if you've read it. I'm sorry. It's not a good book. It's so boring. It could have been written in like 30 pages. But I think what I'm describing right here is what the author of that book describes as enlightenment. He says that if you are even just slightly, like even for a fleeting moment, enlightened, that's what it feels like, where it's just like it is impossible to not be present. You have no choice but to fully be in your body in that moment, experiencing life. And that does not happen at all for most of us. So if you can even just get like a few minutes, like I did that day, you're on your way. Okay. So that was May. Then we get into June. What's going on in June? School's ending. Weather was good. I went on my bachelorette weekend, which was unbelievably, in every sense of the word, perfect. My friends came through for me in a way that I never ever would have suspected or guessed that anybody could, because I try to act like I'm a low maintenance person, and I do think I am in some senses, but I like things my way. And when I have a vision, I want that vision to be upheld, let me tell you. But they did. I mean, the vision was this, okay? For years before I was even engaged, I was like, we need to go to the lake. We need to have a co-ed. So the girls are going to be in one house, the guys are going to be in another house. We're going to go out on the boats all day. We're going to party all night. We're going to play games. We're going to have a PowerPoint party. We're going to do a field day. Like, it is going to be adult summer camp to the max. And it was. Every single thing that I wanted to do, we did. I didn't have to lift a finger. My girly pops brought the decorations. They literally set up our girl suite, as I'll call it, like a summer camp. We had little summer campy decorations. We had the little gingham tablecloth over the table. I mean, literally to a T. We even made, this wasn't even a plan until a couple weeks before, but we even made demerit badges, which I know is like a thing that you can buy, but we made our own. Oh my God. It was so perfect. We had a rave both nights. We got to watch the 4th of July fireworks. Not that we were really celebrating the 4th this year, but fireworks are fun, I guess. And it was on the lake. So, you know, we had like a little backyard barbecue, and then we watched the fireworks. And then one of my friends starts passing around a buzz ball and is like, let's say something nice about the bride and groom. And we did. And it was just, oh God, I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. It was literally perfect. Perfect. And then I came home and I was on summer vacation. And summer consisted of a lot more little home projects and just alone time, which I love. I love my alone time. And wow, pretty much from August to November was wedding central. I am thinking about like, okay, I got back to school and then what? No. Then what was, all right, we're planning the wedding. So the fall was great, but it was extremely gridlocked in on like, okay, I have to do my job, which if you don't know, I'm a high school English teacher. Great time for me to be planning a wedding, right? But I had to lock in and like get my stuff all planned out, get everything in order, get the slides made like a month in advance, have my quarter plan made before school even started. My kids this year have been fantastic. They were super supportive. They knew from the very beginning, hey guys, I'm going to be out the last week of the first quarter because I'm getting married. And it was just sweet. Like, everyone was cool with it. And again, everybody in my corner made sure that the things that needed to get done got done. They were like lifting me up in the process, including my students. Like, they were so understanding, especially at the end of the quarter when all the grading needs to get done and things are stressful. I'm going to credit myself a little bit. I really tried to make it so that everything important got done before I left. But even still, you know, the end of the corner is stressful. There were still some things to grade. Doesn't matter. I will say this. I'll get into all the wedding details in a moment, but I was literally finishing up college recommendation letters on the morning of my wedding. I know, that's terrible. That one was on me, but everything else did get done very well. And I just have a lot of good people in my corner. So thank you to those people. Thank you to my students if you ever listen to this. I hope you're not currently. It was a crazy fast past few months. It's now mid-December as I'm recording this, and we're a month and a half out from my wedding. And yeah, I just cannot believe all that has happened this year and all of the circumstances under which all of those things happened. before I get into like the final takeaways, I do want to spend a few minutes chatting about the wedding because it's my wedding. I want to talk about it. And I just am so thrilled that I was able to share the little homemade wedding video that I did make with my husband. And I have never really been a big fan of the done up kind of produced wedding videos. I knew that I wasn't going to pay to have somebody do that. And I was totally cool almost all the way through with like not having a video at all. But literally like a month before the wedding, I had seen something on Pinterest where a girl had a little camcorder and she passed it around to her bridesmaids and just other important people at the wedding. And it just was the sweetest, cutest little home video. And they didn't have any audio from the day on it. They just put a song over the whole thing. And I was like, wait, that's exactly what I want. So very last minute, my husband asked a coworker if we could borrow his camcorder. And he was like, totally, because he was coming to the wedding too. So he was at least going to keep a little bit of an eye on it. But that's exactly what we did. We passed it around to people all throughout the day. My husband's uncle recorded the entire ceremony, so we got everything on film, everything. And I will say, I only saw it in the morning in the bridal suite, and then I asked somebody to take it over to the groom suite, and it kind of disappeared. So I kind of thought, oh, okay, well, I guess we had it for a couple minutes, and then maybe it just kind of got left behind somewhere. Oops, oh well. And I had to get over it in the moment, because I was just like, it's okay, it's just like a last-minute idea that I had. But then I saw it at the end of the night and it was still getting passed around. And I was like, oh, wait, it's still here. And then when we plugged it back in, once we got home and the weekend was over, we had something like 4 gigabytes of video. And the footage was well over an hour long, maybe even 2 hours long. So every single part of the day got captured. Anyway, I say all of that to say I was so happy to be able to share that on my Led to Gold like Instagram page. If you're interested, follow me there. The video's up there. It felt so special, and it felt so sweet to be able to kind of bring this thing out and be like, okay, this is why I haven't been all that active online, and why, I don't know, it was the thing that culminated to this one day. So if you watch the video, I think you'll get a really good sense of just what that day felt like. And I know everybody says that their wedding day is like the most perfect day of their life and everyone's together, but that really is what makes it so amazing. That is what makes it the best day ever, is because everyone you love for the one and only time in your life is in the same room. And I'm smiling so big saying this because it's just incredible that even gets to happen. Of course, there's going to be the people that can't come or decide not to. And of course, that, it's a little sad. You want everybody there, but I just can't get over how fleeting that is and how important that is, and how it really, really, truly is a once in a lifetime experience. Because, not to put a downer on things, but it's not lost on me that it's like the next time I'm going to get to see a lot of these people are either at their own weddings, which is a great thing, or when somebody dies, because this is the part of life. I'm at that age where things split off. And I guess they have been for a couple of years now. But now that I'm married, now that my friends are getting married, now that some of my friends are starting to have kids, the priorities change. This isn't a secret to anybody, especially if you're my age. I know people are talking about this all the time. But I'm interested in resting in that place of just knowing how special it is as it's happening, because it isn't going to happen again. It will never happen again. These people are never going to be all together ever again. And that's the one downside of being the bride at a wedding, is that, oh my gosh, it's just, you're so aware of how amazing and special and beautiful that moment is, or that day is, those few hours. And there is just no possible way to absorb all of it. Ugh. Ugh. Everyone told me that that's how it was going to be. They all said two things, okay? They all said, you need to eat and you need to be present and enjoy every moment, which I will say one of those is a lot harder than the other. Eating wasn't easy, which is unfortunate because it is usually very easy for me, but it wasn't on that day. I had to force myself. But yeah, the being present part is a lot harder, I will say. A lot harder. Obviously, it was just amazing to get to talk to everybody, but I just kept finding myself being like, I want 2 hours with you. You know, like my old roommates came. My childhood best friends came. My first boyfriend came, who now has a beautiful partner and who I love so much. And it was just so funny because I'm talking to each of these people individually and I'm like, wait, I want to stand in the corner and talk to you for 2 hours, but I only get like 3 minutes with you. And then I have to talk to somebody else. And that was the hardest part of the day for me because I just wanted, like, I wanted the whole day to be like a marathon. But then, of course, on the flip side of that, wow, I was so exhausted because, of course, I didn't sleep the night before. And we even had a little after party. There was like a little fire pit for people to hang out at. And lots of people stayed for that, which was wonderful because I got even longer to talk to some people that I didn't think would stay. But that was actually daylight savings time ending or whatever it is. Like in November, it was November 1st. So we got an extra hour, which was great for some people. But the second that the clock went from 2 a.m. back to 1 a.m., I was like, all right, y'all, peace. I can't. I'm done. I got to pass out. And I did. I crashed really hard. And it was beautiful and it was wonderful. And the good news was me and my husband and the bridal party and our really close friends all got to stay on the premises. So we didn't have to go anywhere. It was great. And then the next day, I think about this and I'm getting so excited because, literally every part of the weekend was perfect. Perfect. First off, I didn't even talk about this. We had a Halloween rehearsal dinner, and that's all I'll say on that. All of my friends know what to do for Halloween. They showed up in costume. We ate barbecue. We hung out. We had a little fire, not a little fire, like a bonfire. It was amazing. Then we had the wedding, which was obviously beautiful and perfect and amazing. And then the day after, because we all stayed at this manor, we had breakfast in the morning. We got to hang out a little bit, chill out, set everything up, or I guess rather close everything down, pack up the car, and then this was the plan all along. But it was pretty nice out. It was getting chillier, but my husband and I were like, okay, back to, oh my gosh, full circle moment that I didn't even plan. The same golf course turned nature preserve was very close to where we got married. And we had made plans to, okay, after the wedding's over and everybody's gone and after we can leave, we're going to go to that nature preserve, take a walk. And if the weather's nice, we'll take a little cold dip. And we did. And some people might not agree with this. It was absolutely perfect for us. But one of our friends from the wedding, who does not live nearby anymore, came and hung out with us. So it was kind of a third wheel situation, but so perfect. Like, we wouldn't have done it any other way. We hung out in our little cold spot in the river. We have a little spot where you can swim underwater and it gets pretty deep. So we hung out there. We did a little cold plunge. It was absolutely freezing, but then I felt amazing. I felt fantastic. So we get out of the water, we walk back to our cars, we say goodbye. It was so bittersweet and so cute. My husband and I get home. We kind of took stock of the wedding gifts and took a really fat nap and ordered Indian food and hung out and just had a chill night. And then the next day was Monday and I went to work. I went to work. It was crazy. It was just such a freaking whirlwind, as I said at the beginning of this episode. I think ever since then, I've just been kind of like blissing out because we're just so immensely grateful to every person that has supported us in this last year, because a wedding needs a lot of support, especially because I am one of those girlies. You can judge me if you want, but I am the girly who, like, from age 3 knew what I wanted and knew that I was going to have the big wedding and the big dress and the big party. Like, I am that girl. I wanted the whole big thing. And absolutely no shade to anybody nowadays, especially who chooses to elope or do a courthouse wedding, because yeah, girl, that's the affordable option. Do it. I just, for myself, I was like, no, I like to party. I wanted all my friends in the one big room, and it was amazing. And the most amazing part of it was just looking back on all of the support. I feel like I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but I'm realizing as I've talked through the year that this is really the big number one. I shouldn't even say this is the takeaway. It's not the number one takeaway. It is the takeaway from 2025. And that actually takes me right up to today, which I think I just said a minute ago. I'm recording this in like mid-December, and I have come up again against the same kind of obstacle that I feel like I have always struggled with, which is yet another thing I've been kind of alluding to in this episode, that I like things done how I like them done. I think I get that from both of my parents, but I'm very independent. I like to know that I'm in control of a situation and of how things look and of how things get done in my life. And I have a very, very hard time relinquishing control if I don't feel like I have to. So that gets me in a bind sometimes. And that's literally what I'm working on at this very moment. I think I'm coming up on the other side of it, but we are about to go on our honeymoon. We took a couple months, obviously, between the wedding and now to do that, which I'm very grateful for, because, oh my God, I talked to some people that I'm friends with who did the wedding one day, got on a plane the next morning, did their honeymoon, and it just to me sounds awful. I mean, I was so tired. I can't imagine going on a vacation like the day after. I literally can't imagine anything worse. But anyway, we're going on our honeymoon in a couple days, and just it setting into this time, I was starting to feel really disorganized and feeling like, okay, I know that there's a lot of things that need to get taken care of before we leave, but I don't even know where to start. And that's between my actual job. That's with getting back and active here on Lead to Gold and on social media. That's the tasks that need to get done around the house, the cleanup, the everything, talking to cat sitters, like making sure that everything's going to get taken care of while we're away. And I was just starting to feel really overwhelmed, and I had to sit down and make a bullet list of literally everything off the top of my head that I was like, okay, this needs to happen before we leave. And by the time I was done making that list, I had 24 list items and 12 days to do all of the things, which immensely freaked me out. But then I was like, okay, hang on. We're going to list these in order of priority. So then I got out my little highlighters and I colored it in order of priority. And that actually helped a little bit, because then I was like, okay, we can do 2 of these tasks a day. We have 12 days to do them. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's what we're going to get done on what days and at what times. And we're most of the way through that. And things have gotten better. But part of the reason for that getting better is because I had to relinquish some control. If you are a control freak girl, I need you to hear me when I say this. People want to help you. People want to help you. And this is still so hard for me to grasp and so hard for me to accept and so hard for me to let other people take the reins and do the thing if it's not going to be how I necessarily envision it happening. But in the lives that we currently lead, where everything is overwhelming, where we are experiencing what I would consider a marked decrease in quality of life across the board, unless you are very well cared for financially, socially, whatever. Things are hard, okay? We need to go back to the beginning of the year and just let that sink in. It's not even just from this year, I mean, everybody's been saying it. We're so tired of living through unprecedented times. Things are hard out here, and we need to lean on one another. I talk about this all the time, but let me get into the specifics of how I came to this realization most recently. So I made this journal, or this to-do list, right? That's 24 list items long and colored in order of priority. And I think I have it all figured out, right? But on the flip, coinciding with this, I am having the most intense, emotionally packed, emotionally draining dreams that I've had in quite some time. And I don't feel like I need to go into the details necessarily of them, but I will just say that like more than one in the past 2 weeks have included me having some sort of complete, total emotional outburst, which I do not do in real life. And I think most people probably wouldn't do it in real life the way that it happened in these dreams. I'm talking, I was in the middle of class and I burst into tears and ran out the door sobbing, crying. That's not going to happen in everyday life. Another one was I was, doing the thing with my husband and somebody walked in on us, and then it just completely like ruined the rest of the atmosphere. There was like a party going on, but I literally like isolated myself and tried to hide in my childhood bedroom. That's symbolic, but we'll get into that another time. Just wanting to be alone and feeling like, oh my God, nobody will ever give me space. Nobody will ever leave me alone. I just want to be unburdened from all of this shit. That was the overwhelming feeling in both dreams. And there's been more that have had this sort of emotional outpouring, right? So these two things are happening, one in the conscious, like in the real life day to day, and the other in my subconscious. And I'm just like, wait a second, something's not working here, because my body is clearly trying to signal to me like, hey girl, you are overwhelmed. You are giving yourself too many things to do. There's too much on your plate. And the way that you are currently living is not allowing you to actually truly rest. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. So I'm explaining this to my husband after I wrote out the big long list of all the things that I had to do. And he's great at knowing when I am reaching my capacity, because there is just a certain level of stress and like intensity in me talking about these things. And he's like, wait, hold on. I can do some of these things for you. Like, what are we talking about? I can get the NZETA. We're going to New Zealand. We have to have this like special whatever. It's kind of like a visa, but not. He's like, I'll do that for you. I'll pay the HOA dues. I'll clean the kitchen. I'll do these things so that you don't have to do these things. You focus on your work. You focus on the things that are you specific. Let me handle the other things. Just let me handle it. And here's the thing. The sigh that I sighed, the sigh that my entire body sighed, when somebody else gave me the permission to let them take it from me. Right? Like, the situation is that I don't ask. And I have a feeling a lot of us do this, where we think we have to do everything. We think we have learned over many, many years that, like, you can't depend on other people. You can't rely on others to do it the way you want it to get done. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes that is true. Sometimes you do need to be the one to take the reins if you have a very specific way that you want something done. But we need to figure out what those things are, the things that we absolutely will not give up, the things that we absolutely must have our way. We can take those things on, but that can't be every single thing in our lives. It's just not going to work. You're going to burn out. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to start having dreams where you burst into tears in front of a class of 30 teenagers, and it's going to be really embarrassing. And then you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, what is wrong with me? Why do I keep having these weird emotional outbursts in my subconscious? Like, does that mean that I need to do it in real life? Yeah, probably. Take my situation and apply it if it applies to you, wherever this is going on in your life. But the bottom line is this: let other people take care of you, because they will. They will. You have to believe that other people will and want to show up for you, because they do. Before the podcast ended for season 1, we were starting to have a lot of conversations about reciprocity and community care. And that is absolutely still something that I care a lot about, and I hope to kind of share with the world and talk about with my friends, because in a year like 2025, and just in a climate that we are currently in, where we are entering hypercapitalism, where we are experiencing like the decline of a lot of things that used to work, right? Things that used to just be the norm that are not working anymore and are feeling way too difficult to uphold. We're starting to see all of these systems that are unsustainable in the long term. But yet, big corporations and billionaires and the people in power are going to try to make these things stay as long as they possibly can. And these things are built to keep us more isolated. I'm talking social media. I'm talking targeted ads. I'm talking Uber Eats, DoorDash, all of the things that we rely on for convenience, but do not allow us to interact with other humans. Any and all systems that operate under that sort of guise, like that's how they operate, they're going to try to keep that around, because we are more powerful when we're connected. When people share similar ideas and they care about one another and they have a strong, robust, and relatively large community, they are more powerful. And I don't mean to get all into that part of this conversation. I'll save that for another day. But ultimately, I want us to understand why for so long we have kind of been taught that you can't rely on other people. I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I do think that there is something about that logic being passed down over decades that makes us not trust people. And I do think that might be for a reason. My point is, we need to reverse that, because I'm telling you right now, you can depend on other people. You absolutely can. It takes time. It's got to be people you trust. It's got to be people that you've built a rapport with. But those people want to be in your corner, and they want to see you thrive, and they want to help in any way they possibly can. So let them. Just let them. I'll finish up my spiel on that with just, okay, yet another full circle moment. I love how this is happening. This feels so perfect for like the first episode back. But I mentioned in March how there was a new moon and it was on a solar eclipse, and it was just felt like a reset. Well, just this other day, I think it was about a week ago now, was the full moon in Gemini. And this felt like the peak of my overwhelm, what I was just describing, where I gave myself 8 bajillion things to do and like not very much time at all to do them. But I was like, okay, I have the house to myself tonight. I'm going to do a little bit of a ritual. And I did a guided ritual because I just did not have the brain capacity to think about like how to work with this full moon. But the one that I used just had me very quickly thinking about what I have built or what I have accomplished in the last 6 months. So that would have been from May of 2025 to now. And I kind of just laid there for a while and I was like, wait, it's the realization that I'm now sharing with you. Wait, I actually really did lean on my community in these past 6 months. I really had to let people help me because the wedding would not have been what it was if I didn't have help. It wouldn't have looked the way I wanted it to look. I would have drowned in debt. I would have been completely lost and overwhelmed and freaked out and upset and heightened all the time trying to make this work if I didn't have the support that I had. If I didn't allow myself to say, hey, could you help me take care of the decor in this way? Hey, could you reach out to this person and just make sure that everything's good with the DJ? Hey, could you help me build the playlist? Hey, could you maybe come with me to try all of the different cake flavors and then we can see which ones we like best? So many questions like that and beyond. And I know they probably sound frivolous to some people, but it's just so many moving parts. And there was no way I was going to be able to take care of all of that myself. Just absolutely no way. But as I've said, the day was absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Not a single thing went wrong. Nothing. Literally nothing. And it was just so happy and everyone was so together. And yeah, I still can't even put into words how great it was. But it was because I allowed people to enter into that space, that sacred space that I wanted a very specific way, and I let them help me, and it exceeded my expectations. We have to learn to trust that others can do that for us, even if we have that really strong vision. So that was the first part of the full moon ritual was, okay, what have you built? What have you accomplished? What is the thing that you have kind of seen grow in these past 6 months? And that's it. It was my ability to trust and my ability to allow support. And then what am I going to try to build in the next 6 months? What's the thing that needs to continue to grow? And I'm sure if other people do a ritual similar to this, it could be a world of things. It could be a complete 180. But for me in that moment, it was just, I need to continue to let that trust grow. I need to continue to let people in. I need to continue to allow and accept other people's input and support, and very simply ask for help when I need it. And I have needed it, and I will continue to need it, even without such a huge thing to plan. Think about the last time there was something that you needed to get done that you could not have done on your own. Just think. Maybe it's been a long time. Maybe it was something really, really small. Maybe it's something so distant in your past that you don't even know if there is an example. But I want you to think about any time that somebody helped you get something done, achieve something that you didn't think was going to happen. Because that is what humanity is all about. That is what life is all about. Maybe not doing it perfectly, maybe making some mistakes, maybe it takes a little bit longer than you wanted, maybe the trust fall that you have to do in that process is really, really scary and takes you a while to do, but you do it anyway. And you know what? I'm not even going to lie. Like, I know that there's another side to this, and I know sometimes we do trust people with things that are really important to us or really big, and they get it wrong or they let us down. That's another piece of this, right? But that experience, because it is real and it does happen, and it's happened to me too, that experience shouldn't stop us from believing that others can't do right by us, you know? And I know I've already said this, but I will just kind of end with the thought that we have built this idea and we have built this culture and grown into this belief that we must do things by ourselves. We can only rely on ourselves. Individualism is the way. And it's just not. We can see that in the way that more individualistic tendencies and the ways that we literally live our lives so isolated from other people. We don't know who our neighbors are. We maybe work from home and don't see other people other than our families or our pets all day long. The way that our true socialization is really only meant to happen on weekends. The ways that our lives are currently built and lived out really, really separate us from one another. And that seeds distrust. But we need to find ways to break that down. And I think that the first step is just what we've been talking about, allowing other people in. So if there is anything that you take from this episode that you potentially weave into what you're thinking about as you're entering into the new year, let it be that you're going to try to open up a little bit. Let it be the possibility that other people actually do have your best interests in mind. That you actually don't need to do everything that you tell yourself you need to do by yourself with zero help. Just think about the possibility of that. Maybe it doesn't feel true. Maybe not yet, but maybe in a few months, maybe in a few weeks, maybe something comes up and you'll think about this and you'll just be like, oh, maybe I don't have to do this all alone. Just a thought. All right, y'all. That's the episode, but I'm going to bring back our little tradition. And if you've never listened before, I will reintroduce at the end of every episode. I love to just pull a little card from the game We're Not Really Strangers. I have a bunch of different expansion packs for this game, but I like to use the healing edition for the show because it just always ties in so nicely to whatever we're talking about. So I'm going to pull a card. It might have nothing to do with what we've just talked about. It might have everything to do with what we just talked about. But regardless, if you want to use this as a little reflection time, as a little journaling prompt, whatever it will serve for you, let it sink in. We'll have a little conversation about it. All right, here's the card. What do you keep having to apologize for that's within your control to change? Oh man. I'm sure there's other things that are probably a little bit more overt, but the first one that's coming to mind for me is just general procrastination on my end with communication specifically. I find myself having to apologize a lot for sending a delayed email. In my school district, the general rule is that if a parent emails us or if anybody emails us, we have to respond within 24 hours. And I rarely do that. It's not great. But even so in my personal life, texting friends back, not answering the phone when somebody calls me and it's like kind of important. I'm not good at getting back to people. And that is something I do want to work on changing. But I will say the upside to this, and this is probably another episode that's coming up soon, but I just recently took all of the social media apps off my phone that's connected to the network. And I opened up my old phone that is not connected to the network and just put them all on there. But I have to sit in the same spot in my house where that phone is plugged in order to use those apps. So the upside to that is the current network phone that I have, it doesn't have any distractions on it. So I actually have found myself being able to respond to texts faster and be more responsive in general, because that's the only thing that I'm seeing on that phone. It's like the only notification that comes up. I'm not being dragged away by millions of other notifications or DMs on Instagram or emails or whatever. Like, I literally don't even have email on that phone anymore. So I think that's helping, but that is probably the biggest thing that I find myself apologizing for on a regular basis, is just being inconsistent and not responding back in like a timely manner. Yeah, we're going to work on that in 2026. But how about you? What do you keep having to apologize for? And make sure it's something that's within your control to change, something that you can tweak a little bit. Okay. Guys, we're back. I'm so happy. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you again pretty soon, actually. I'm going to return to the bi-weekly schedule. So look for another episode on Monday, the 6th of January, I believe. I'm not looking at a calendar, but I think that's what it is. And then after that, it's going to be every other Monday, just as it used to be. But that's that. And thank you so much. I love you, and I will talk to you soon.